Okay, so welcome everybody to this new Polimi Data Scientists event. Now today we are with two hosts, Alex Porciani and Luca Vavassori, who are two co-founders of Polimi Data Scientists. Today they will talk about how they got from becoming students to actual data scientists at two big companies who are UBS and KPMG. UBS is a bank and
I think there is some problem with Kai's connection. We can't hear
him. Can you? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Can you hear me now? All right. Sorry about that. The connection is a little bit weak. All right. So they will tell you how they got accepted to the actual role in these companies. So first of all, what is a brief introduction of what is Polimi Data Scientists? We are a community at Politecnico di Milano, and we do all the sorts of events, from events with external companies to events with academic professors and things like that. We are also a very, very big community. All right, so we are a community of students who are mostly master students, but we're also trying to get the attention also of bachelor students, because we know it's very important to, we believe it's very important to actually let younger students to learn more about data sciences in order to pursue a more they preferred path, so they know better what actually data scientist is. We've also formed various groups to participate to Kagos challenges and hackathons. So, as I said before, we organize a lot of different types of events. All right, so if you want to join the community, you can follow us on Polimi Data Scientists. In this website, you will find different blog posts, study notes, study plans, and also the links to our social profiles. All right, now I guess we can ask the first host, Alex Porciani, to present the event.
Thanks a lot, Kai, for the introduction. I think I will do this jointly with Luca, since our story and our career path is quite connected. And I think we would like to start talking about how we came up with the idea of this community and how we built it from scratch, basically. And then maybe we can go through what it was our background, education, and then our current job position, so that we can answer all the questions that you may have. Is that fine for everybody, Luca?
Yeah. Sorry, I heard something, but I didn't get the last part.
Yeah, I was saying we can start from when we founded this community, and then going through our career study and then career path.
Yeah, sure. I also prepared many questions to make it more interactive. At a certain point, I will just interrupt you and maybe ask the audience a bit. Alex told me he wants to have this formal in a way. It's really meant for you to maybe share with us your questions and doubts on how you will switch from being a student to eventually become a professional in the data science field. So we are very open for questions. I think on Team there is also chat, so don't hesitate whenever you want to maybe write in the chat and ask us questions. We will try to read those and answer as much as we can. So, Alex, tell me, because you want kind of an interview, so I'm gonna be your interviewer now. Tell me.
Okay. Now I'm afraid.
Morning, or we used to live together in Milan. So one day Alex knocked on my door and said, "I have an idea," and the idea was, let's found Polimi Data Scientists. So
I had many ideas. That one was one of the most successful ones, I would say.
And what was one of the very few successful ones?
Exactly.
So what did trigger you in your mind? What did?
Yeah, basically, so going back 3 years ago now already, it's we were really at the beginning of our master program, and I was looking for some advices on like which exams to take, which courses to take, how prepare myself at best for the jump to the industry afterward. And I was looking for a kind of mentor or somebody that could give me some answers. So I did some stuff. For example, this Mentor for You program, or Politecnico, like a more widely mentoring and tutoring program. But there was nothing really specific related to data science that was what I liked and what I was willing to do. So my first thought was we missed this community a bit. And data scientist is such a hot topic now that I think it's quite crucial to have such a community and to share ideas and to share experience in such a community. So I just thought, okay, we don't have it. Let's do it. And we put some effort together. Me and Luca, we really talked with a lot of people to make this happen, to do the first events, talking with companies, and I think now we have other people that are running it. Kai, it's one of them, and Marco as well. And I think now it's quite a big one. So I hope people see value in it. And I hope this will be a place to share our experiences. Maybe Luca, do you want to add something?
Guys, hear me properly, because but like I'm receiving messages from the guys saying that they don't hear me properly. Do you guys hear me properly?
I hear you like a bit jumpy, but I can understand what you say.
Okay, I will try to increase the volume of my voice. Yeah. Anyway, I share everything you said, and we had the idea basically together and developed the idea together. It was a very nice way to fill a gap that was present and maybe still present in Politecnico, where basically students didn't have very much an idea of what to expect outside. And so maybe we have been kind of pioneers in this, and put ourselves in the front line to see and share our experience in trying to get more insights of how to approach a company and eventually get a job. So,
yeah, I also think that's quite great also for connections. If you connect with many people that will do a similar job to what you want to do, then it's easier to find a position in the industry. Like it happened to me just like a couple of months ago that I referred a friend of mine that was used to also study at Politecnico, and now he got a job in my team at UBS, for example. So I think that's also the value of the community.
Yeah, indeed. I've also done the same for many guys that are in the community, and sometimes I just receive questions and say, "Hey, Luca, how did you get in contact with this and that?" And it's very nice to be helpful. Yes, we had our go.
No, I would say let's maybe jump into the content of what we did exactly, because I mean, me and Luca, we have a very similar background.
Yeah, I was about to do that.
and we did the bachelor at Politecnico Computer Science, as I think many of you, and then immediately after we applied and we got a position in the master that is called EIT for the data science track. I don't know if you are aware of it. This is maybe if there are some students from the bachelor, I think that's a great opportunity if you want to know about data science, but also about business. I think that's a good mix of courses that EIT offers, and that basically a double degree. And we spent 1 year in Politecnico, the first one, and the second one in Stockholm at KTH. And we did both courses of data science and also courses of more like business, like strategy, innovation, entrepreneurship, all this kind of stuff. And I think it was a very good mix. And also when I did my interviews, when I was seeking for a job, I think that was also an extra that I had that also allowed me to find a job that I liked.
Yeah, it was a very nice plus indeed, and it's very valuable in data science, especially to have some business knowledge, because you can maybe better understand what are the problems that a client is facing, and if you have a bit of understanding also in that field, you can kind of broader the view and include some nice insights that if you maybe are just focused on the technical side, you will hardly spot. So yeah, during our master, that was a double degree. Alex, you were saying?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So in our master, that was a double degree, and we studied for 1 year in Milan and for 1 year in Stockholm at KTH, Royal Institute of Technology. The second semester of the second year was required to pursue our industrial internship and write our thesis project in a company. And this has been something that really helped us trying to figure out what would have been the future after university, before actually leaving university, because already at the beginning of the second year of master, so let's say September, October, we were faced with the fact that we had to find a job, essentially, because that was it. And it was a bit even sometimes harder than just find a job, because we had to combine the fact that the company would have given us the possibility to write a thesis project while working. So this was quite challenging. And the way we approached it was essentially to first exploit our community, PMDS, Polimi Data Scientists, trying to arrange events, and thanks to the events, try to gather contacts and build connections with professionals and people working in the field, asking them suggestions. And also, we used a very famous website that is called Glassdoor. I don't know if you have never heard about this website. It's called glassdoor.com, I guess. And it's like a portal where you can find a lot of jobs, but it's very nice because every company is listed, and there are reviews of the position and salary that you will get if you actually get the job, and questions that you will maybe be asked during the interview step. So we combined this, and we started to just send out so many applications and curriculum vitae, even to positions that were maybe too much for us, considering our background, or maybe that were not really interesting for us. But it has been a very good practice, because eventually, from the interviews that we didn't really want to have, or the one we expected not to be a good fit for, we learned the most, and we could practice a lot our interview questions, because
Yeah, I think
you want to imagine how.
I think that's a very good
you
point.
want to imagine how common are the questions that find, and how prepared you will be when you actually go for an interview, because you can imagine a lot of questions, but if you never practice an interview before, and you never get to like speak with someone that will ask question in a HR view, you will really struggle eventually.
I think that's a very good point, Luca, and I think actually that's one of my lesson learned from this whole process of interviewing, that like the one that you really want, you should keep it in a second moment, because I think you need to fail, and to fail fast, and to fail early. So to try maybe some interviews that you don't like too much, for some position that you don't like too much, but you practice, and then when you arrive at the next one, you already know what to say, right? So that I would say is the first takes. But also another thing that I would like to share is the fact that it's quite important, at least that was my experience in my interviews, to have some practical knowledge and not only theoretical one. And I'm saying that because, especially in Politecnico, they focus rather more on the theoretical part. That it's completely fine, and I think it's absolutely useful to have. But for example, at KTH in Stockholm, we saw that we did really some practical projects. And for example, one question that I got in the interview was like, can you share your GitHub with me to see a bit what you did? And thanks to the projects that I did at KTH in data science, then I was able to share something that was more than zero. And I think that that's quite helpful, because if you just study formulas and theory, then I think you lack something that it's important. Because when you start in the job, like from day one, you are asked to do something and to deliver. So I think practical experience is quite important. I don't know what was for you, Luca,
I totally agree. And I think that's also a good point linked to Polimi Data Scientists, because they are providing you with maybe a group to deep dive in topics, and also Kaggle competition groups to actually put the hands on some challenges and tasks and problems to solve, that will actually give you some practicality of how to structure a notebook. For example, like you will use Jupyter Notebook a lot, and maybe you don't even know how to structure Jupyter Notebook, how to easily use it, and like what is the actual flow to ingest data, and then pre-process it, and then try to start with some exploratory analysis, and then actually at the very end solve the problem, while you maybe just study, I don't know, linear regression, and then the linear regression is just 5% of your job, and eventually it doesn't really have any value if you only know the theory and you don't apply it. So yeah, I totally share this point with you, and for this, I really suggest you to do something now when you are still in university, because otherwise you will find yourself starting a position, or maybe also in the interviews, where you will be asked to maybe code something or explain how you will set up a workflow from data collection, visualization of sites. So it's very important to build a practical background. That's for sure.
Maybe we can address. We have a question on the chat. How did you practice for your interviews? And I would say here there are a bit two aspects to this. So the interviews, basically, I think we can divide all of them. We can split in the HR part and in the technical one. So for the HR part, I think the only way to practice is really doing interviews for also position that you don't care too much.
And to inform yourself before with some common questions, because there are some sources, but if you just Google that, you will probably find very common questions that HR asks. And it's very helpful to already answer those questions and maybe try to memorize them, because For example, one of the questions you will never think of is, what is your biggest failure? And you maybe cannot think about it. Of course you failed sometime, and it's completely normal. They want to know that, but you never thought about it, and you will either say, I don't remember any failure, and that's super bad because nobody will believe it. The second one is maybe you come up with a failure that is not very relevant for the position you're applying for. So if you try to find those HR questions before and like literally black white, you take a pen and a notebook and you start writing down those questions, it will help you very much when you will actually have to go for an interview.
Yeah. Also, if I can add to this, like, for example, a question that I like to do, like now that I'm doing some interviews for new interns, is why do they like the financial industry? Because I'm working in that industry, and I think that's also quite important to maybe ask yourself before you apply. Why you want to go to an industry rather than to another one, because data science is now it's really everywhere, and I think you should think about a reason before applying for a certain industry. So, for example, in my case, I didn't want to go to financial industry, right? It was just a bit random, but I prepared myself a bit before the interviews with an answer that makes sense, so that at the interviews I didn't just answer randomly, or I was a bit prepared. So I think that's also quite important.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I wanted to add something to maybe get some information about the company as well, because when the company is contacting you, then they will probably say, okay, we are this company and we do this, or do you know us or something, and then they will explain you a bit, and then maybe you can have some research on it. But if you are applying for a company, you are going for an interview, I think you will have to at least have an understanding of what the company is doing, not just in the sector you want to apply, but have an overview. And if possible, also have an idea of how it is organized, like where it has subsidies, in which countries, this kind of stuff. Sometimes it's relevant. It's not always
what's the
relevant,
value also of the company? I think that's something that, for example, at least in UBS, is quite important. So we have like three main values. Exactly, this stuff. It's something that it's always asked in the interviews, and I think it's worth to just have a look at the website of the company. It's like really like 5 minutes, and you are prepared. Then maybe we can go to the technical part, or if you have other stuff.
No, for the HR part, I think we said almost everything. And
or if they have some questions, just
apply. Try to apply also to positions maybe you don't really want, or you care a bit less about, because eventually, if you can manage to have those interviews before, it will be very helpful for you to practice a lot. And maybe you will even find that a company that you didn't really consider very interesting as a very cool job for you. That's also something that can happen. So never underestimate the importance of applying to positions that you are not really willing to have, or maybe you are considering a bit less important.
Absolutely. Then, from a technical point of view, I want to first like start with a disclaimer that I think it's not mandatory to have a background in data science to apply to a data science position. I think what is important is to know a bit the basic, and to be in the mindset of this role. For example, what happened to me is that we hired an intern a couple of months ago that did mechanical engineer, but he knew a lot about machine learning, and he was really a strong candidate, and we decided to go for him. I think it's not a blocker, because I see he in the participants list. I know some of them, and they don't do computer science, for example, and I think it's anyway not a problem to go in data science field. The only thing that is important is to study a bit and to try some technique or some very famous, let's say, algorithm or framework in the data science environment, and here you can really go with, there are plenty of courses online that are really well done, also from famous universities where you can practice. Because I think that the most important thing when a company looks for a candidate is that is the right person, is like entrepreneurial, it's proactive, and then knowing the field. It's for sure important, but it's just one component.
Yeah, I mean, the technical aspect is very important, but sometimes if you have a very strong technical candidate and he has no soft skill, and then you have a fair candidate with a good technical background, maybe it's not as good, but in person can give you insights, can speak with you, can understand your problem, can structure a problem and a way to solve it rather than just being super strong technically. For sure, the company will go for the candidate with more soft skill rather than a very strong candidate. So
it happened to me too.
I think it's very,
I talked
important
I talked with my manager, and he told me that like interviewing people for full-time data science position, he often prefer like a graduate from university than a PhD, because the PhD is too focused in the subject and has no really soft skill or way to present insights to the business, because that's, I think it's crucial part of data science role to also not just deliver insight, but also to explain to other people that have they have no understanding of the subject, how they arrive to that insight, how they arrive to that result, how they can use it at the best.
I see very nice questions, but I think we will address them just in a couple of minutes before we switch to the actual experience on the job side, I would say. Also, before that, maybe I have a couple of Menti questions in case, if we want to make it more interactive.
Yeah.
So just to, I mean, for the technical part, I would say what you study is enough, and just integrate a lot of practice, and don't underestimate also the importance of knowing the theory. And sometimes, like I had a very difficult, let's say, interview at Moviri. You know Moviri probably is a company that is very linked to Politecnico di Milano. And I was quite surprised because, for example, I got an interview in EY in Milan, and technical one, they asked me, have you heard of this Python package? Have you ever used support vector machines, something like that? And I said, yes, of course. And they said, okay, fine. And they then switch to the HR part. While, for example, in Moviri, they start asking me, explain me the architecture of Kafka. If you think about the deep,
sorry,
the deep
Luca,
level
we lost you
of knowledge that you
for
need to have to actually
10
answer that question. Sorry?
We lost you for 10 seconds, so if you can repeat the sentence.
Yeah, I said, like in EY, they asked me some technical question, but very shallow level, like very high level. And in Moviri, they actually asked me, what is the architecture of Kafka? That is a very, like the depth of the topic, because I don't know if you know what Kafka is a middleman, let's say, that can ingest messages. You store them, and then you can ingest those messages from a streaming framework like Spark, for example. But then you have to get in the detail, and you even ask me what is the offset. So, for example, the offset is when you have topics and different consumers, and then you want to know how much a consumer has access. So it was quite hard, and luckily I rehearsed a bit before, but never underestimate the importance of theory, also at a deep level.
I think we can go through the questions. What do you think, Luca? The one that we have in the chat, maybe? Or
yeah, do you mind if I just share the screen for? Can I share the screen? Actually,
yeah.
So
Next to the microphone.
Is this one? What do you see?
Yes.
You see the main question?
Yes.
Nice. So in case you want to answer these questions, feel free. I'm curious just to know about the OEB. We also have some ideas on what to address.
Yeah, maybe I would also ask, like, how many of you guys are studying data science, and how many are not, to see a bit what level we can go.
Yeah, in the meantime.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, we can answer maybe these questions that we have in the chat. Do you want to start, Luca, or I can also, as you want.
If you read me the question, because now I am presenting the slide and I
yes. So the first one, okay. So the first one I think we already answered is, can engineers from telecommunication or other disciplines learn data science? I think that we already spent some word on that. The second one is what is the project that we enjoyed the most, both personal or from university or from the job. So maybe I can quickly answer this one. So for me, it's a project that I did last year in my first year of work. That was on NLP, and we did it together with with a Swiss university that is close to Lugano, and they have AI research center. And basically, the goal was to come up with a solution to tag and highlight sentences in text related to different topics that are interesting for the bank. Just as an example, for example, let's say if a person is interested in some investments, and you have, I mean, in UBS it's a huge company. We have a lot of clients and we have a lot of contact notes. So basically, let's say notes that the client advisor, or let's say from call or from emails, we have some notes about the clients, and the goal was to like extract only few sentences but very related to specific topic, and was not I would say it was quite challenging. And I really like the setup that we did both with my internal team at UBS, so more, let's say, business focus, but also together with the university. So we did also some research. I learned about the BERT model for NLP.
We are using that a lot in my department.
Yeah, I think now it's quite mainstream. 1 year ago was like starting, because it was introduced from Google, I think 2018 or even 19. And so, I mean, I worked really on the cutting edge technology. I think that was quite cool. And there also like a lot of the part where we basically explain the result to the business, and also to the people that then have to use this to approach a client and talk to them about some topic that they can retrieve easily now with our tool, looking at all these notes and a glance seeing the important part. So like maybe out of 10 years of contact from bank with the client, in just like some seconds, they can retrieve the very important sentences that they talked about. And yeah, this one I enjoy quite a lot.
Cool. Yeah, that was very interesting. I actually covered a lot of different projects when I joined KPMG, and I think the one I like the most is not super fancy from a data science perspective, but I really liked the fact that it was very much integrated with the data engineer. And it was about, so we had a client that is a very big bank, is an international. There's a lot of subsidies, especially in the UK, Australia, and mostly all over Europe. And they, for a process, internal process, they had to classify some records, and they had something like I don't know, a data set was 1 million entries or something like that, produced in 1 month. So every month we will have 1 million more data entries, data points, and we had to set up the architecture to actually and also assess the feasibility of classify those records in tax codes, because you won't imagine how bad usually is the quality of the data you will get from clients. You will spend most of the time trying to solve your headache, trying to make a sense of what is in it, and deal with missing data and not harmonize values where there are 3 different words that mean the same thing, but you don't know, and eventually the business counterparts, like the business personnel of the client, will say, yeah, but these and these and these are the same thing. So we experienced all of that. But the nice part was that we used Azure cloud services, and we set up an environment on Azure AutoML. That is a tool that might be scary for data scientists, but in the very end, I think is not going to replace anyone. We are very much needed also to use something like AutoML. And we defined some pipelines where we uploaded some and dumped some data in CSV format to a blob storage, and then deploy this data, access this data from a cluster of 15 nodes that were managed via pipeline that you can define in the Azure ML environment. And every node had a Docker image that we defined, and eventually the data was pre-processed, and then we went through the AutoML classification with nice plots and stuff, matrix, confusion matrix, a lot of gain curve, ROC curves and stuff. And finally, we classified and generated some interpretability of the interpretability report of the data and results, and then we pushed back to a blob storage and visualized it on a platform. And it was very nice to have a full overview of the process and understanding a bit more of platforms and that will be cool for me because it's more required nowadays to be a dentist with some understanding, some level of understanding of the data engineer and data architect reports. Yeah, cool. I see a lot of nice words here anyway that appear, but I didn't see any money, so I'm quite happy for that. So
no, I see money actually.
Oh, you did see money? I didn't see money. Where
it's a yellow one.
Nice. Yeah. I didn't see it before, but good point.
Anyway, I would say, Luca,
the next slide.
Yeah, while they maybe answer this, I would like to maybe answer, because I see a lot of questions in the chat. So maybe I can try to go over all of them, and maybe feel free to jump in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. In the meantime, if you want to answer questions.
Okay. Then. Can you briefly describe your typical day at work, and what tasks do you do daily as a data scientist? From NB.
Skip this one for later. I have a question for this. Skip this
okay,
one for later.
Okay, because this is 6 like. Okay, but let's keep it in
mind.
I know.
We're gonna answer that, but keep the suspense.
Okay. Then we have a couple of questions, like, apart from working at company, how would you suggest one can build a strong GitHub profile? And in the same, and another one in the same direction, is how basically you can have some practical experience. I think so. In my case, it was mainly because of university in Stockholm, because they asked like for a lot of technical stuff. But apart from that, I think like Kaggle competitions are a very good way to have a GitHub profile, and also like Kaggle is known worldwide. So when you are in the interview and you just mention that you did challenges on Kaggle, and you show the GitHub profile with these repos, I think that's already, I think, enough. I mean, when I gave the link to my profile, I had like maybe 5 or 6 projects, not 100, right? So it's I think it's good if you have some, but you know what you did and you can talk about it, because the question immediate after that one is like, okay, can you talk to me about this specific project, what you did, what technique did you apply? Yeah. So I think it's better to have like few, but knowing what's inside, let's say.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe just also pick a couple of, you can just Google what are
Luca, I don't hear you.
You can even do something that is related to what's happening. You can't hear me now, or can you?
Now a bit better, yeah.
Okay, I will try to push.
But I think no, it's not the voice, it's the internet connection, I think.
Okay. Yeah, what I was saying, like maybe you can also just Google, and there are a lot of like Medium posts and stuff with the 20 projects you can do to build up a nice GitHub repo, like something like that. You can do that, but I think it's very nice also if you can do something you're passionate about or you are interested in. For example, now there is the COVID-19, and you can find literally a lot of data set on that. And there are so many unsolved questions or something you can do, and maybe you can even just, I don't know, copy the job that has been done by someone and try to replicate it. And this will be already some valuable project you can show. For example, try to log in of this country and then apply a forecasting model and see how it goes. And I mean, it's nothing too complex, but it already showed that you were like able to formulate some kind of questions and try to answer them, and also have a code base that show that I can do this stuff. Maybe it's not the most advanced tool that you're using, but you know what you're doing. So this is, I think, very valuable. Yeah. And in the meantime, I will switch to the next question because it's very much related to the one about our daily life as a data scientist.
Okay, and maybe let me answer another one that we have that is exactly, that have a lot of likes. It is why consulting companies rather than a purely tech companies. And here I think we have 2 different answers, because Luca, it's in a consulting one, and I'm in a corporate that is not tech. I mean, tech is not the main business, but I think it's anyway. I mean, banks are quite tech, I would say. Because looking at the IT department, it's huge, and they also use quite cool technology. So I consider UBS being like a quite tech company. So not like Google, but for sure a quite tech one. And also, if I can answer this one maybe before Vava explain the consulting word.
Go for it.
Yeah, so I was very, very undecided, and I applied for consulting position as well as corporate ones. So I think the difference is it's quite big, and I think in consultancy you learn probably faster because you see many industries. Then Vava can say this later. In corporate, I think it's quite cool the way you really take a problem from the beginning and take it to a working solution. Because I think if you go like in very tech company, let's say Google, Facebook, and so on, you maybe focus on a very small part of a big project because maybe machine learning it's their business. In a bank, but also I think in any industry, you are a bit in the lead position. So people, you have to interact with business people that have their problems, and you have to figure out how to solve these problems using AI. And that's, for me, I really love this part, because then I have a project in my hand from the beginning to the end, really, and I can steer a bit what we do, which techniques we apply, how we explain this, how we bring this to the business. And I think in a tech company, this is a bit missing. I mean, they have a lot of very cool stuff, like technology is for sure better, and you maybe work on really cutting edge technology on a specific field. But what I like in a corporate is really that you have a project end to end, and you are in the driving position. And with this, I leave it to Luca.
So yeah, it's a very interesting question. While I was applying to companies, for example, I applied as a software engineer to Amazon Berlin. I reached the last step, and eventually I just failed the last step. And they used a very nice way to assess your skills and see if you fit for the position. And there's a simulation environment where they try to, as a game, let's say, make you perform, like you will have to perform a typical day of a software engineer in Amazon. And it consisted basically in emails that you receive from people asking you to fix some code, to fix some bugs that you will find in the code, probably because of this tool is not working or the platform is down, and this kind of stuff. Everything started with a 5-minute, 15-minute meeting at the beginning of the day. Then you sit on your laptop, you code, you review code of other people, you look into I don't know, logs, just log files, and that's it. And I also actually asked friends, and I've watched a lot of videos from people working, for example, in Google, Facebook, and stuff. If you are more in a technical role in a very big tech company, you will probably be very much seated on your desk and coding for let's say 8 hours. Maybe it's not the case every time. It's not said, every company is a bit different, but if you go to a big tech, that will be probably your fate. You will be typing on your keyboard for 8 hours just trying to code stuff. While from my perspective, I wanted something more in between business and again, that the consulting, especially in the analytics, advanced analytics department, was exactly what I was looking for, because I can, as Alex said, be in the lead and understand the business and focus more on solving problems. And then there is also the part where I sit down and code, but it's a bit more, let's say, human in a way. You interact more with people and you build your skills and stuff. So yeah, I really think for me, at least, it was very important to have a mixed, and that's why I eventually applied for a consulting company and not a software or a big tech company.
And I think that's quite similar actually to also working in a corporate that is not tech focused, because I'm also doing consultancy for teams in my company, right? So I think they are not too much different profiles. And I mean, now I'm in the finance industry, but I would actually like also to try different ones in the near future, I would say. Yeah. And I mean, with the skill that you have, I think in the end, when you are able to understand how the business works and how you can solve problems with the data science, then you can go to whatever industry, because in the end the problems are very similar, just the data that changes.
Yeah, indeed. It's just nice in consultancy that you actually see a lot of different projects and industries and sectors in a very short period of time. Because in my case, a project lasts maybe 1 month, sometimes it's 2 months. If it's very big, maybe it's 3 months. But that really helps having an overview of different sectors, and maybe sometimes in the future you decide that one of the sectors or is very interesting than the others, and you can actually join more projects on that industry, or maybe become, I don't know, senior data scientist or manager or a head of data science for a company that belong to that sector, and you will focus your effort doing something that you like more. But I prefer now to don't specialize in anything and have a broader view, and eventually trying to focus in a specific area. That's from my perspective.
Yeah, and let me, maybe before we look at this, answer other couple of questions, because one is very quick: how we choose the second year, the exit university at EIT, from Tommaso. And here I think for the city or for the university, I think a bit both, actually, in my case, because I want to see maybe a bit different culture. So Nordics is quite cool, and also the university was a good one, and I think like a reputation of university is quite important, I would say. I mean, also
it's quite important when you it's quite important when you want the job, but eventually it's not that important when you start working. Like after a couple of years, it doesn't count anymore.
Yes, absolutely. And also I think like a driver for me was also the fact that in the Nordics they are more technical than in Italy, and that's why I wanted to have this.
They have way more practice, like it's 50-50, while in Italy it's more like
8, and then maybe
or 90.
We have others, like, is it important knowledge about how companies use information system? I mean, I would say like a basic knowledge, yes, but deep knowledge is not required at all.
But you will learn most of it while you will work.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, then let's maybe move
to do your job rather than let's move to the day.
Typical day,
A typical day. I really like that you put data cleaning so big. I don't know if it's because there are so many words, so the word become bigger. That's how workflow should work, but I'm not sure. Invent it. That's very true. But when you actually work on a project, for me, my typical day starts usually with meetings. So you will have a meeting usually in the morning to define the goals of the day, and especially if you work for a client, probably you will have 3 to 4 meetings during the day, half an hour, 1 hour each, because you have to meet a lot of actors that belongs to different sectors or different department of the organization of your client, and every of them might have insights or requests or something to tell you or to update, and so meetings are a very big part of my day. Then usually you start actually working on your project. So yes, data cleaning usually it's a very big part, along with understanding the business. That is, I would say, that because sometimes you don't even have the data, but you still have to understand the business in the meantime, because you will probably get the data some point in time, especially if the company, the client you work for, has problems delivering you access for the platforms and systems. It's a second most important thing, and you will probably spend most of the time on. And after that, finally, you will try to match the questions that you generated along with the clients with some model or data analysis that will finally generate. And then it depends a bit of how your company or your department or team structure the work. So in my case, we use a agile approach. We base our work on the Scrum model, this SCRUM. And essentially what it does is to split the whole process in sprints. And every sprint is a period of time, let's say 1 to 2 weeks. And in every sprint, you try to achieve something and produce some insights. And at the end of the sprint, you will see look at your insights and see how far you got. And if interesting problem that will help you to actually solve the final question, like answer the final question, or maybe we will even replace the initial question because you found something more interesting. So yeah, you work on your data and generate insights iteratively, trying to reach your goal. And at the very end, there will be the visualization part that not always it's something we do, because we also have business analytics, so business intelligence and business analytics departments that are more expert in tools like Power BI or Tableau. But you will make the data available to visualization, and you will have to prepare slides and presentations to explain your results to the customer and the clients. And sometimes it's even more important, especially for the client, to understand how you build a solution, even if you maybe used a model that is not cutting edge, but is more explainable and interpretable in a way, rather than maybe use a black box, like a neural network, and say, yeah, I have a fancy result, and then the client doesn't understand how you got there. So this is also something that, in my case, we used to take into account. So that's all for me. I can.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's quite similar, I would say, because unfortunately, the most of time, or I'd say half of time, is spent in meeting to really understand what to do and to design all the project. So I think that's quite a big part of it if you work in a non-tech company. And then, like, another very big part for me as well is doing slides and present results. And then I would say the last part is to really do coding and to do models. And for that, I mean, to cut it short, 80% is data cleaning, data understanding, and then 20% is really forecasting, classification, prediction, this stuff. In my case, I also do some visualization with Tableau, for example, or with Power BI, and I really enjoy this part as well. But I think that's very personal attitude, what you like the more. So yeah, I
It
would
also
say
depends of what are the responsibilities you have, because, for example, we are structured in a way that we have people expert in visualization platforms, and like we will give them work to be done. So
I think it's also
depend
on the maturity of the company or the team itself.
Of course,
I mean, I saw with my team when I started, we were like five data scientists, and we did like everything on our own, from data engineering to machine learning to data visualization. While now, I mean, in the last year we are almost 15, so we have like people more dedicated for the data engineering part and people that are more dedicated for the visualization part, and then it's a bit up to you what you like to do the most.
I think I can't hear anything anymore.
Okay, then I think we have a couple of questions. So if you have other questions on the daily work, just shoot in the chat. And in the meanwhile, maybe let's answer this one. How is Polimi assessed abroad? I think that's. I mean, I think it's quite well positioned actually. So if you go abroad, it's Polytechnic is for sure I think among the best ones that you can find. for sure in Italy, but also in Europe, I would say. Also very important, I think, it's to know a bit fluently English, and maybe a bit also the language where you go. For example, I'm learning a bit of German, even if it's not necessary, let's say, but it's a plus. So yeah, that's regarding going abroad, because I think both I'm in Switzerland, and Luca, it's in Amsterdam, in Netherlands. Luca, can you hear us?
Yeah, finally.
Okay.
I had some problem, but I managed. What question did I miss?
No, if Polimi, it's valued abroad. So let's see your opinion.
Where I work now, they knew it, but it didn't really make any difference for them.
Mm-hmm.
Also because maybe consulting company are more focused on hiring someone that is from the place, because it depends about like how the company is structured, and how international they are, and what kind of clients do they have. But for example, KPMG is mostly focused on audit, so the financial review of basically they are collecting the financial data of the companies and make sure that everything is fine at the end of the year. So they work mostly maybe for Dutch companies. So eventually you will probably require.
I don't hear you anymore, Luca.
Is this kind of I didn't.
Can you hear Luca, guys, or it's my problem?
No, I think it's my problem.
Okay.
I have other two people working inside because we are more than the one.
No problem.
Connected to the.
Okay, so I think we missed one question, but maybe do you want to finish, Luca, first, and then we go to the next one?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I said eventually I don't think Politecnico has a very big impact outside Italy.
I mean, I would say in Switzerland, for example, it's well known actually, but just because we are quite close, and in Switzerland they have like 2 or 3 big universities, and then of course they have to pick some students from abroad, so Polytechnic is known. But yeah, probably in Netherlands it doesn't really make a difference.
Probably it's just for the Netherlands.
Then we have, and this, let's ask Luca, to your experience, what are the best companies to work for as a data scientist in Milan?
In Milan, it's for at the waving at me. In my so it depends what kind of job you want, of course. If it's more technical or more business related,
or consultancy,
you can try to work for one of the big 3. So consulting firms. I think now, especially McKinsey and BCG, they have very strong data science department. So maybe you should have a look at that. A very cool one is Movieri. The problem is a bit the pay. The pay is quite low in my view compared to what they do and what is required from you. Then there is this new company that has been founded by some actual former colleague of ours. I don't know if you know Christian Schutt or Lorenzo Tarantino. These guys, they found a consulting company that is quite cool. It's called Dascal. You can have a look for that. And then, I mean, the big tech and there are some small companies and startups as well. I remember Quantica, for example, was one of those that was more focused on big data, though, than data science. And I don't have any other clue of smaller companies because there are so many that I completely forgot. But if you look on, you will be surprised if you look on what's the name again? the above the Polimi for job posting. I completely forgot.
Career service.
Yeah. Posting there because most of the companies eventually are in contact with Politecnico or maybe have been founded by someone from Politecnico.
Yeah,
So
also if I can add something, for example, more business, there is also Microsoft that I did some interviews that I liked,
do
but
they
it's
have
more
the technical department there?
It's more on a business level, I would say, like let's say understanding their and explain their solutions to customers. So it's not really like coding too much, but it's more like on the business side. And I think that would be also quite good for people that are not studying data science as a core subject. And then yeah, there are for example, Amazon is also in Milan. I remember also did the interview there, but it's a bit the same as Microsoft. Said they don't have really the research or the development department. I mean, otherwise, for banks also, I think I didn't apply for any banks in Italy, but that would also be a possibility. Or the big foreign consultancy, so like KPMG.
Oh, there is Bending Spoons.
Bending Spoons, but do they do machine learning? Yes, probably.
I think now they actually have a data science. They open some data science position.
Then okay, in case of internship.
Actually, look for fashion, and they are all starting to develop their own that should be will be one of the first joiners of their new teams, and maybe they will even offer and be
Luca,
data
we can hear you not
so
super
you kind of find. Yeah, no, I was saying like just you can just try to find positions in companies that are even from the fashion sector or sports sector, whatever sector, because they are trying to build their own data science departments.
Yeah,
and maybe you will even have more challenging and interesting projects because you will probably like first joiners in the new department, and you will be in charge of building the knowledge and the structure of a new data science hub. So don't just focus on like tech companies or consulting companies. You can actually find every kind of company with data science.
Absolutely, and I think that's very good advice because I think it's quite challenging to build this.
Yeah, for example, Prada, Nike, those companies, they have data science departments. If you actually like, for example, Nike, you can maybe be a data scientist for them.
Yeah. Then there are also some questions about internship or work abroad and how companies support this. So in my case, for example, they support me, like the HR department a bit, like for example, in finding an apartment or this kind of stuff. But actually, it wasn't too difficult, I would say, and I think it's really on you how much effort and how willing you are to really move to that country to then find the the right spot for you. I think I put a lot of time in moving to Switzerland and finding a good solution. It's not easy, but it's something that you have to deal with if you want to go abroad. And for that would be my experience. Yeah, then maybe, I mean, if I can add something here, if you're also looking for internship, maybe if you were interested to come to Switzerland, you can write directly to me, maybe in LinkedIn. We have like periodically some internship position. So yeah, feel free to contact me in case.
Okay, I think if you don't have other questions.
Now we are not hiring.
Okay, yeah, go Luca.
No, I was just saying I cannot say the same because now with COVID they are kind of cutting all the new hires. So if you want, you can contact me, but probably there won't be any open position until 2021 or later, even later. Yeah. It really, as Alex said, anyway, it really depends by the company how they will support you, especially moving abroad. For Amsterdam, it's quite a mess, especially the housing. So no company probably will provide you anything.
Yeah, as I was saying, if we don't have other questions, I think we can conclude now. I think. If you have other things to say, Alex or Luca.
No, I think, I mean, very many thanks for the invitation. I liked a lot of the conversation, and wish you all good luck for your future career. And yeah, don't hesitate to connect with me in LinkedIn or whatever you want, and to text me in case you have other questions or you want some more specific advices. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so thank you very much. It was really nice to talk to all of you.
Thanks for my side as well. It has been very nice, and as well, if you want to connect, don't hesitate on LinkedIn. I can even share with you my Telegram contact in case you have questions. And I also wish you good luck, and I really suggest you to participate in the activities of Polimi Data Scientists, because I think they will really help you in building some strong skills that you will require besides the one you will learn just studying at technical, and maybe also make some networking and meet new people that will maybe in the future give you a job. Who knows? So okay, that's all from me, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you also for participating and being willing to expose yourself and give us very meaningful suggestions and experience. So yeah, thank you again.